What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. I am, of course, your host, your bastard of ceremonies, Reckless Rexx Ruger, a.k.a. the King of Sleaze, a.k.a. the Son of Glam, a.k.a. Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. Pop's looking down on me proudly right now. Got the Freddie Mercury puppet, teeth out in full effect. We're ready to do this thing again. We got another kick-ass episode, and we are going to get down to it right now. No fucking around. As usual, we're going to chop it up. This is where the cool kids come to chat. So let's get down to it, man. Dispense of the formalities and get our guest in here. We got ourselves another good one. But then again, when don't we? We got him.
There we go. Okay, I'm just pushing buttons.
This technology stuff is just so much fun, isn't it?
Oh my! I'm like, I can operate a recording studio and I can set up about anything in the world, but yeah, give me a phone the size of a box.
Well,
Like, yeah, I'm screwed.
Greg Turner, appreciate you doing this, man. Really been digging the 10-cent revenge or 10-cent revenge EP, man. A lot of fun.
Cool. Thank you. We had a lot of fun doing it. We moved here a few years ago, me and Josh, and then the rest of the band, they actually had a band that was clients of mine, and they moved here. And I'm like, wow, we're in Arizona. All of us are from Nebraska, and now we're all in a band. So
is there a theory behind, because obviously, and I've had some death metal guys on here too. There's a wild scene down in Tampa, Florida, and there always has been. Obviously, the Bay Area thrash scene goes without saying. That's out in California. I'm starting to think that there's a similarity between hot weather and kick-ass fucking music.
Actually, everybody here tells me that bands come here to die, and I was like, "Well, that's crazy." Okay, but a lot of good bands here. We've friended most of them. Sorry, I'm turning on some lights here, so I don't.
No, that's all right. Yeah, no, Arizona, I think has. I wouldn't think that that's accurate at all.
There's a great metal scene here. A lot of metal bands. Rock and roll bands, not as much. There's a few good ones, like our buddies in Color Chaos. They're super cool. Great band. There's a lot of great thrash bands. In fact, two of our members are one of our members is in a band called Morning High. They are Metallica 1983, and they're only like in their 20s. I'm like, geez, I was like, they sound just like Megadeth. It's crazy.
Morning High. I'm glad you're shouting them out.
Yeah, they're good. They're good guys. Our guitar player produced them, and I engineered the album. In fact, I'm finishing it up right now. So
nice.
But yeah, great band. We've helped them out. They've helped us out in a few ways. So it's and I'm a homebody. I don't go anywhere unless I'm playing.
Same with me.
And we do a lot of Hollywood gigs. My singer, he's Josh. He actually joined Black Oak, Arkansas. So he goes out with them once in a while as a guitar player. Both of us were in Donnie V's band. So once we got out here, there's a lot of things to do, a lot of great opportunities, but we're just kind of ostracized from the metal scene because we're not metal. We're a little bit more just hard rock, so.
Well, if I can backpedal like a little bit though, man, and chop it up a little bit like about your early days, I like to usually kick it off with, like, was there a specific artist or a song or an album that really kind of put that spark in you to do music?
Oh, Kiss Destroyer and Shout at the Devil.
Okay.
That was it. I did like the first, not the first Quiet Riot album, but the big one, Metal Health, that came out.
Yeah.
That actually made me want to, Carlos Cavazo, watching him, I was like, now I really want to take it seriously. Kiss, I just wrapped myself up in my parents' Christmas tree lights, that destroyed Christmas a couple times doing that. And I air guitared to Ace Frehley because holy shit, that guy.
I think Kiss was a lot of people's gateway drug, though. I do hear that a lot, and I've talked to a lot of musicians on here. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Kiss is an entry point for a lot of people.
Oh, it is. They're gateway drug.
Yeah, they really are.
And then my first Kiss album was Kiss Alive. I heard Kiss Destroyer at a friend's house and lost my marbles and begged my dad to buy me a Kiss record. I didn't know they had other records. And, so I ended up buying Kiss Alive. And yeah, that just changed everything. And my first concert was Johnny Cash. And then my dad took pity on me and took me to see Kiss when I was 10. So I saw the Alive tour, the Love Gun tour.
I wouldn't say Johnny Cash is a bad first concert, though. That's not one that you really want to be shameful about. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
no, I'm not. Oh, I'm not. I'm not
I mean,
at all.
maybe when you're a kid, it doesn't seem like the coolest thing, but then when you look back at it, because I remember being a kid and my parents and my grandmother going to see Johnny Cash, and I mean, back when I'm 12 or 13 and I'm just getting into rock and roll, I'm thinking, oh, that sounds like some stodgy old fucker music. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't sound cool at all. But then when you get older and you realize just what an impactful, force Johnny Cash was on music.
Oh, absolutely. I still got the program from that.
Yeah. That's cool.
So that's a cherished possession of mine, and my dad took me to all the country shows. So I met all the country people first.
Yeah.
And I like the songwriting styles of a lot of country, like the old country artists, Conway Twitty,
yeah,
Ronnie Millsap. In fact, funny story is, when I was a little kid, I could get down by the buses and backstage and like, oh, cute little kid. And I could get them to sign anything for my dad. I'd be like, oh, it's for my dad. And they're like, oh yeah. So Ronnie Millsap, him and his tour manager, they see this like 7, 8-year-old kid. The only thing my dad had for them to sign was a deposit slip out of the back of his checkbook, when we still had checkbooks and shit.
Yeah.
And so I took that down there, and the road manager says, hey, Ronnie, Ronnie felt it, and he goes, hey, man, this feels like a check. And the tour manager's like, yeah, it's a blank check, Ronnie, just go ahead and sign it. I thought they were being serious. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. They were just busting my balls. But they signed it. I give it to my dad, and my dad looks at it and he goes, that guy's got pretty penmanship for a blind guy. That's all he said. And I was like, Dad.
And so one thing, interesting thing that I read on the 10 Cent Revenge webpage, though, you started out as a guitarist and then kind of fell in love with the bass.
I did. All my friends in high school and junior high, they were virtuosos, for that time. I mean, now I look at kids 17, 18 years old, they're crazy. I can't even, I don't know how they can play that way.
Yeah.
But all my friends were really good guitar players, and I was struggling to keep up. I didn't even know what a bar chord was for the longest time. I was doing full on chords. And then I saw Motley Crue, and I looked at my buddy and I said, that guy can't even play his instrument, but he's getting every girl in this entire room. Like, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. And then I really got into bass players and, Steve Harris and, guys like that. And it was, wow, it's an instrument unto its own. Gene Simmons, a lot of people give him crap about being such a crappy bass player. His early stuff, very Paul McCartney, Beatles-esque type runs. Tom Peterson from Cheap Trick. Oh my gosh. Great stuff. So that really, and then Rudy Sarzo, I saw him with Quiet Riot. And I'm like, it's an instrument that's very important to the band.
Yeah. I've had him on the podcast, by the way, too. What a great guy, too. Amazing guy.
Every time I met him, I actually challenged him to a bus race once in Michigan. And I don't know if he thought I was joking or not. But I said, hey, we should race for pink slips because we had some crappy old, beat up school bus, tour bus parked next to theirs. And I said, let's race for pink slips. And he goes, yeah, I don't think so. He's laughing. I said, well, yeah, because we kick your ass. And then he just looked at me. I'm like, dude, I'm just teasing, man. Like he took like 2 steps back, like I'm not gonna get weird.
But I mean, talk about a great rock resume, though. I mean, Quiet Riot, Whitesnake, and Ozzy. I mean, boom. I mean, that's a mic drop right there. I mean,
all of it. It's in fact, I just watched that documentary on Randy Rhoads, where Rudy
incredible.
About that. Yeah, and the guy just, he played on the Speak of the Devil record, and they actually tried to bury his bass lines a little bit, the producer.
Yeah.
And it's real mid-rangey sounding, but man, you can hear what he's doing, and it's really good. I love the way he plays.
Yeah, it's good to hear that, though, too, because I think a lot of times, like when kids get started out in music, it is more the glamorous to be the front man or to be shredding on the lead guitar. And you don't see a lot of kids tend to gravitate towards the bass because it's not looked at as, as the most glamorous position in the band,
Right. Well, I always tell people, they're like, oh, why are you a bass player? I was like, yeah, well, you know what? I own everything. So, I don't. But, but I enjoy it. I actually enjoy playing bass. We got a really good lead guitar. Actually, Josh, our singer, is an amazing lead guitar player in his own right.
Yeah.
And him and Jeff, Jeff is very metal and Josh is very, almost Southern rock. He's from Nebraska, from small town Nebraska. But I like how they complement each other. It's just one of those deals. I look over, I'm like, wow, they're doing these twin harmony leads and the two styles. It's like the Iron Maiden dynamic where you got Adrian Smith and Dave Murray. One's more of a shredder, the other guy's he's more melodic. And I think that really works in many ways. So I'm lucky. I get to watch that every night. So
and so when you guys get together to create as a band, like what's the process like? Does someone come in with the lion's share of the ideas? Is it very collaborative and democratic? Like what's it like when you guys are all together creating together?
So, I'll tell you a quick story of Steve Favela from Color of Chaos. He was with us for a while. And, I tell him, hey, we got this new song idea. Josh and I'd have one or Josh would have one. And Steve is like, he goes, here's my take on that, dude. He goes, when, most musicians see their songs as their children. He said, so when you guys call me up and say, hey, we have a new child for you to look at, and contribute to, he says, by the time I get to your place, that kid's in college already.
Yeah.
He goes, you and Josh, it's already mapped out. He goes, I don't know what to do with it after that.
Yeah.
So it's been, Josh and I have collaborated on, I think, 2 songs so far. Otherwise, it's Josh coming in with an idea almost done, or me coming in with an idea that's almost completed. And then our drummer, Jake, I mean, I asked him to join this band because he was a client of mine. And he came over, and, God, he looks like he's 12,
Yeah.
And he played, his meter is right onto a click track. And he can just do take after take after take, doesn't get tired. Everything sounds great. He's easy to work with. And I'm like, dude, you want to do this? And so he's pretty laid back. He just comes over, gets his stuff, and he gets out. So this next album that we're writing, I want Jeff to be more of a player. I was like, dude, come in and, because he's got a great ear. He's a great producer. He hears things I don't, and I've been doing this for 20 years. So I learned things from him, which is great. We butt heads quite a bit. It's awesome. We get over it pretty quick, but this time around, I really want it to be more collaborative instead of me saying, well, here's the demo, guys, do what you want with it, or Josh doing the same thing. He'll just come in and just basically lay down what's in his head already, so.
Is it easier with you guys all in the same like area, like because obviously, like I know, like with the technology being so advanced now, that a lot of bands are kind of spread out and they do a lot of their creating, like via files and via this kind of stuff. Do you guys like getting into a room and playing together?
Yeah, Josh and I, the last couple CDs, they're EPs that we've done, he was living here for a while, so I'm sorry about that. But he was living here, so it was easy. I'd be like, hey, I'd go bang on his door, like, dude, I got this idea. Come in here and check it out.
Yeah.
So this next one's going to be a little. We've got most of the songs written. We have a song that we're going to redo from a previous band of mine that I toured with called Mushroom Bruise. We have a song called Way Out. And I just sincerely, I was like, I don't want to play this anymore. I played it for years. I toured on this. And the rest of the guys like, oh, it's a good song. And it goes over great. Like we played it at Rocklahoma, and somebody, this guy named, oh my God, his last name's Turner. It's Paul Turner.
Yeah.
Great photographer. He videotaped the whole thing, and I get all these hits. Like, oh, what a great song. I'm like, that song is like 20 years old. Like seriously, but
held up though.
Yeah, it held up.
Yeah.
So we're going to put it on our next EP with my former singer's blessing. I just mixed an album for him, or a song for him. And so he's in Nebraska still. He's got a really good band out there, but yeah, with this band, our next album, I'm hoping it's going to be more collaborative because it's usually just been me or Josh or me and Josh. And I want to change that to where we've got the other guys coming in, more organic, more writing, more push and pull. And because I need to be challenged as a songwriter, I've been writing this stuff. I wrote stuff for 3 albums for a band called Saints of Lust that I had back home.
Yes.
And it was me and my singer. We did all the writing, and my drummer would come in and he was really good. And, he had ideas. He was the one that we'd get done with the demo and then he'd come and change it all. And I'm like, all right. So, but
yeah,
but yeah, it's been, and then on this last EP, we had a lot of guest stars. So we had like Bruce Kulick, we had Rowan Robertson from Dio fame, and Sherry Curry sang on our record. And then we got to do a show where she came up and we got to play Cherry Bomb with Sherry Curry, which was
crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
amazing lady. We had
I mean,
Mark
these
Knight.
aren't just guest stars; these are legends. I mean, Bruce Kulick.
Oh yeah,
And, I mean,
yeah.
you know, you're
Oh
talking
yeah.
about like, legendary people.
Oh yeah, yeah. Brian Forsyth from Kicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, just crazy. And what's funny is it started out. Josh came up to me. We had a song called "Road to Ruin," and he goes, "Hey man, do you mind if I get another bass player for this bass line?" I'm like, "What is it not good enough?" And he goes, "No, it's great." He goes, "But I got a guy." I was like, "Well, who do you got?" He goes, "Well, I got Tony Franklin." And I'm like the Tony Franklin, like like the fretless monster Tony Franklin. He goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely get it."
Yeah.
And he did he did the fretless thing. Oh my God, dude. And it just brought that song to life, so, but I have to learn how, I have to play that. So I'm
Right,
like,
right. And now you're talking about doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, and obviously you've got all the equipment behind you. You're obviously part of a band, but do you like the behind the scenes stuff more, or do you like to perform more, or is it kind of equal?
it's equal.
Yeah.
I get a great rush when I get a good mix and you just crank it and you just like, there it is, it comes to life,
Yeah.
or when my clients come in, and they're like, oh my God, your drum sound is amazing, or wow, that really sounds cool. And I like that. And even when I write something and watching it come to life and getting creative and, making weird, coming up with weird sounds. And, I love that. It's a big as rush to me as playing live, playing live, I'm just like, please don't fall into Don Dawkins' drum set. That's my whole thing. I don't have to, that happened. Sold out show with Don Dawkins, and Don's awesome guy, just
Yeah.
super nice. And I ran down the stairs at the Whiskey a Go Go thinking I'm going to jump down the stage on the first beat. Lights come up. We're here. I tripped and I did the Mary Catherine Gallagher thing right into the drum set. And I'm like,
Oh man.
I was so embarrassed, and I got back up on my feet, kept playing, and they had everything set back up. But I was just like, and I talked to Don's assistant, and I'm like, I go, did Don see that? He goes, oh yeah. I'm like, great, but he didn't
That's
bring
one
it
way.
up.
That's one way to make an entrance.
Like, I was like, oh, my singer was Josh was so embarrassed, but I was like, yeah. But we got through it. I've fallen before. It's no big deal.
And then being as that you're a guy who is such a big part of the creative process, both with the songwriting and the behind the scenes stuff, you've been super productive, an EP in 2022, an EP in 2023. Obviously, I don't need to tell you how much the music business has changed. I think around COVID, I think everybody really started to get like, really anxious about, are we going to be forgotten about? Because it seemed like artists were really putting out a lot of singles and a lot of EPs. Obviously the American public's, it seems like the attention span has dwindled a lot. There's such an influx of music on these streaming sites every single day. You only got so many hours in the course of a day to find and explore new music. Is EPs the right way to go? Is it the right format, or is the long play album still a relevant product?
I love the long play.
Me too. I'm an old school guy, so yeah. I do too.
Well, you listen to something like Pink Floyd's Animals or The
Yeah.
Wall. I mean, it's a masterpiece, and you have to listen to it. It's
You
not
have
a
to.
single record,
Yeah.
I started putting out EPs with Saints of Lust before COVID, and my thought process was with the economy, which wasn't too bad. It's a lot worse now, but
Right.
but people's dollar doesn't stretch as much, but I
Sure.
still want to get, songs are what, 99 cents on the
Yeah.
average per.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, how do I get the full amount of my music and my hard work and still be able to, because nobody wants to spend $10 on an album anymore. They,
Yeah.
especially an unknown album that nobody's ever heard of. So I thought, well, I'll put out 6-7 song EPs, charge them $5-6. $5 is like going to Taco Bell back then. Now
I
it's
remember
like,
how excited we all got when Metallica put out the $5.99 EP.
I know, and now it's what, like $10.98 or something. But I remember they inked that on the cover. So
it was ironclad. Yeah.
And so they're like, no, that's what this costs. Even though they tried to put, it was crazy. But I thought that was brilliant.
Oh yeah.
So I took a page from them, and I thought, well, parting with $5, it's an investment that if the album actually sucks, you don't feel cheated,
Right.
and I still got the same amount of money, and I'd always add a couple bonus tracks that, and now we're on Spotify, and I still hold a couple songs back because it's like, hey, some people still want those bonus tracks. They want something physical.
Yeah.
We sign everything we send out. We always put in a little note, to say thank you or whatever.
Right.
And that's the Kiss thing. Kiss would give you bubblegum cards and guns.
Oh,
and,
yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
cardboard
Oh,
guns.
yeah. That's one thing you can't take away from Kiss, man. They knew how to market. They knew how to market. Yeah.
It was P.T. Barnum versus, meets rock and roll. Right.
Of course, you could always take the Bono approach, man, and just make sure your album ends up on everybody's freaking phone, even whether you want it or not.
Right. It's like, well, we're working on that. So we have a bot for that now. Yeah. I was fighting and a lot of my friends are fighting that T-shirt scam on Facebook, and that's annoying. Basically, Facebook called and said, they emailed me and said, yeah, we're not going to really do anything. We got bigger problems. I'm like, great. It's like my
explain to people that might not know and they're watching this what the T-shirt scam is. I think I know what you're talking about, but I want to make sure. Now, let me clarify. Is it the ad where you seem like you can get a lot of phenomenal T-shirts for a very, very low price?
It's kind of like that. They take our image, or our likeness, or our name, and they make a fake profile with my picture and everything. Okay. And then they send it out they put it in your comments, and they tag everybody in it. And of course it's fake. They click on it. I've had some friends of mine actually try to buy it. And I'm like, guys, you're giving them your credit card information. It's a scam. Yeah. The only merch I send out is directly from my residence on our website. That's the only thing we do. You don't ignore all that. And it's crazy because everybody's getting hit with that,
Oh, yeah. I even noticed it on the podcasting, and it's a slippery slope because I'll reach out to people, and I've invested my time and had a little bit of a banter going back and forth because obviously scammers have to lay a little bit of groundwork or whatever. But I think I'm talking to somebody and I'm getting more and more increasingly excited, but then all of a sudden it starts to sway like, yeah, I'll do your podcast, but then they start to be like, are you part of our VIP membership? And then it starts to sway towards like, okay, I don't think I'm talking to who I'm really talking to anymore. You know what I mean? But it's hard for them to come right out of the gate and ask for stuff, man. But they kind of like string you along a little bit, and the whole time, like you're thinking like, wow, I've got a potentially great interview on the line here. You know what I mean? Right. I was talking to a guy who I thought was the singer for Dirty Honey, an extremely hot band right now. You know what I mean? I was going along talking to him, and then it started to be like, I can do the interview or whatever, but you got to be a part of our VIP experience and go to our page and make sure that you sign up through this or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't think this guy is going to be the guy who's going to be giving this type of a sales pitch in this kind of a conversation, Yeah,
that's true. I mean, I'm actually an AI bot. I mean, it's I
was able to kind of smoke him out because then I started to ask him some questions because I'm just like, hey, I'm really interested. While I have you here, we could talk more about the podcast or whatever, man. But that second to last song on your last album, that was absolutely phenomenal, man. But the name of it is slipping my mind right now. And then you've got them baffled because they don't know. They really don't know anything about Dirty Honey. You know what I mean?
Nope, not at all.
I think you just follow your algorithm and they kind of see what you're into,
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know how they do it. It's really incredible or whatever, man. And it works both ways because now I'm reaching out to people and I'm giving them the hey, hello, kind of like I did you. I host a remote podcast and I'm getting trepidation on their end. Like, okay, is this really legit? You know what I mean? Like, so it's very difficult nowadays, trying to work with this technology because everybody's out there like, trying to get something for nothing, it seems like.
That's true. Well, I click on everything. So I already sent you my bank routing codes and whatnot. My wife is it's like, nope.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's legit? It's like we own property in Uganda now.
Yes. And now, so what position are you guys? So what position are you guys in now? Because obviously it's very expensive, and as I said, the old days of rock and roll are gone. You know what I mean? Like where you'd get big advances and royalties and get put on jet planes or tour buses and get paid to go out on tour. Are you guys able to go out and tour? I mean, do you have regular day jobs? How much disposal do you have to be able to go out and tour this thing?
Well, in this band, really, I wanted to do this band for fun. I've toured, I've starved, rock and roll isn't for the faint of heart or the wealthy. But it's everybody has day jobs. I'm lucky enough that I invested a bunch of money. I spent many years at PayPal. I worked in fraud, and so I amassed my fortune in that in real estate, and so I'm lucky. I get to run a recording studio, and
Yeah.
I get by, and it's
Yeah.
fine. But real estate is, my God, it's the way to go. Nowadays, it's changed.
Yeah.
I got into where you could build a house or buy a house and literally make some serious cash on it if you were in the right location, if you had the right stuff. Yeah, we made a killing on our last two houses, so I was able to come down here, and the taxes in Arizona are way low. It's insane. We were paying 22,000 in property taxes in Nebraska. It was nuts,
Yeah.
And I know it's hard on Josh, my singer, and the other two guys in the band, Jake and Jeff. Jake and Jeff, actually, they have a roommate situation where there's like 25 dudes living at their.
Yeah.
It's cool. But you know what? The place is surprisingly clean. You go over there, I'm thinking I'm going to walk into a petri dish of whatever.
Yeah.
And I walk in, it's like, wow, you guys really keep this place up nice, But Josh, he lives, he's apartment bound. And he struggles, and it's a rough struggle. He's very intelligent. I think he's going to study for the bar. And I was like, yeah, now I can say anything and I got a pet lawyer. I guess it don't work that way. I don't know,
Well, he's got an incredible voice too. So it just goes to show you, man. And for young musicians out there, I mean, you really got to put your nose to the grindstone, because I find him to be a very compelling and a very entertaining and a very charismatic voice on him. And it just goes to show that that the rock and roll, as you said, is not for the faint of heart.
Oh no, he's always been, an advocate for it, and his passion's there. He really wants to do this, but with our current, economy, it's hard. I know bands that there's a great band called Crowbot, really good friends of ours, and I asked Brandon. They stayed with us for a few days, him and Chris, and I asked him. I was like, God, do you guys do all right? He goes, man, we break even. And I'm like, you guys should be way huge. I
know.
Insane band. In fact, Chris left his Telecaster at my house, which was awesome.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe, because I'm in upstate New York, I believe they're Pennsylvania guys. I think they're Northeast guys. And an absolutely great band. You do make a good point. And I've had musicians on here who will say, feels like at this stage of the music business, you go out and play live, but you're just like kind of like glorified fucking t-shirt salesman,
Yeah. Oh, it is. And, that was my point when they stayed with us. They were grateful because they didn't have to get hotel rooms. Because you got to be on a budget, and they're very good with their money. They know how to keep it on the road and keep going. But it's rough, because a band like that in the 70s, they would have been, they would have their own plane. They were good. So nowadays it's a different ball game. And for me, I like playing the Whiskey a Go-Go. Jake Perry, Michael, the grandson of the owner, he runs it now. They treat us like family. And to me, I've done everything in rock and roll I've ever wanted to do. I've met everybody I pretty much wanted to meet. Interacted, with who I wanted to interact with. So for now, everything for me is gravy. I'm just having a good time, and that's all I care about now. Whereas Josh could actually have a career, and the other two guys could have a career. So I'm the Mick Mars of the band. I'm the old guy, I cracked my neck on the road where and when I crack my neck, I have to kind of relax. And all of them, they were like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just popping on my neck. What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, we thought you were having like an old moment." And I'm like, "Oh my God, like an episode."
You look like, I will say, man, you look like in considerably better shape than where Mick looks right now, though. I will say that. And God bless Mick, man, because I'm a huge Motley Crue guy too, man. And I hate to see the whole falling out with those guys, and like Mick not being involved anymore. I hate to see it. It's a shame when you see these bands. The true spirit of rock and roll at the beginning, and then by the end of it, it's lawsuits and bullshit and all this kind of stuff, and suing, and trying to collect royalties and this and that or whatever. It's a shame, because that's not where their heads were in 1981.
No,
when they were
not
young and full of piss and vinegar.
Yeah. Well, that's what I tell my guys, because they are a little younger, and I tell them, "Hey, man, it's not about." I said, bands come and go. Bands will break up. Things will happen. I said, but as long as we can respect each other and hold on to the friendship, that's worth more than any band. It really is. My old band out in Nebraska, I'm friends with all of them,
Yeah.
and and I talk to those guys on a regular basis. And it by the time we were done, we hated each other. I mean, we
Yeah.
did not get along, and now we are able to salvage the friendship, and that's what means the most to me, because you only got one go around on this whole thing. And
Yeah.
I don't have time for grudges and bullshit. And I've made mistakes. I've fucked up and made people mad, but my heart's in the right place, I hope. I'm
Yeah.
always the first to say, hey, man, I'm really sorry if I fucked up, or hurt your feelings or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, man, we got to have that equal amount of respect that we both can meat in the middle and say, yeah, it is what it is. It's rock and roll.
Yeah.
We're not solving
Yeah.
world hunger here,
Right.
So,
Well, I'm glad
yeah.
you brought up, the fact that you got to meet a lot of the people that you wanted to meet. So, in that vein of questioning, what I mean, who was the one person that you got the opportunity to meet where, and I know we're grown men here, so I don't want to say,
Right.
starstruck or whatever, man, but who was the one that really had your jaw on the floor?
Um, Obviously the Kiss guys. I
Yeah.
met Gene Simmons in a very, very positive manner. We talked about Paul McCartney, and he asked me about my band, and he actually gave me some good advice. Very nice guy. I never okay, so I got to work with Donnie V and Alex Kane, and I don't know. Alex Kane was in Life, Sex, and Death,
Mm-hmm.
and love working with him. He's an intense individual. Him and Donnie both. Their dynamic is a little, interesting. I just stay out of the way. But a quick story is I met Ace Frehley, and I got asked to be a bass tech for a very well-known bassist. And he said, "Hey, I can't pay you, but you'll get tickets to the show, backstage, whatever." And I bumped Ace Frehley's elbow as he walked in, and I was like, "Hi, Ace," and he's like, "Oh, hi." He's got that
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I got into trouble because I fanboyed out, and I have a friend that lives in Florida that's a big major Ace Frehley fan. Well, while he's on stage, there's his dressing room was right there, and there was a sign. There was like a laminated piece of paper that said "Spaceman Dressing Room." Well, I took it. And I thought, well, they're going to throw this away. The venue's that's going to go in the garbage.
Right. Right.
I wasn't thinking. I was just starstruck, and I was just like, I was thinking of my buddy, and so I should have just taken a picture of it, and just sent it. But I took it, and I put it in this guy's dressing room, in this the other bass player, and the security came up to me, said, "You got 2 minutes to go get that sign." And yeah, sure, I'll find whoever took it. I shoved it under my shirt, right? And finally, that guy was not going to leave me alone. He was really pissed off, and rightfully so, because I'm supposed to be held to a little higher standard.
Yeah.
And I finally gave up. I just pulled it out of my shirt. I'm like, bro, like, calm down. Yeah, I got ejected all the way across the 202 for that one. They're like, do not come back here ever. Well, then they banned my friend from ever playing there again, even though it was my fault. So I wrote to Ace. I wrote to his guitar player, who we had a really nice rapport. And I wrote to this bass player, and I wrote to everybody, the venue, and I said, look, I am really sorry. That's not me. I just got starstruck. That's the first time I've ever been starstruck in front of anybody. I've been meeting celebrities since I was 7, right?
Yeah.
But it's Ace Frehley. I was like, oh my God, So, and to his credit, I asked the bass player, we ran into each other, and I said, would you be in a video with me? And he goes, well, what do you want me to do? I was like, I'm going to let you point a shotgun at my face. And he's like, yeah, I can do that. So we paid him to come down to be in our video. And he told me after a while, he says, stop apologizing for that. He said, you've made it right with me.
Yeah.
And that meant so much to me, because I was so crushed that, I met my hero, and I put a big black mark on the evening by doing something stupid.
But the funny thing is, I feel like, and again, I could be wrong. I've never personally met Ace Frehley myself, but I feel like with his, he's a New Yorker, just like me. Seems like he has that affable, gregarious. You were doing the voice to laugh. I feel like he'd be the first one to think this is funny.
Yeah, I thought so. And it wasn't so much Ace; it was his guys.
Yeah.
And in being typical New York, they saw that as a sign of disrespect.
Okay.
Because I was on a crew, and crews are, obviously supposed to not fanboy out,
Right.
And I felt really bad about that. And now it's kind of a local joke here. Some of the musicians, they make fun of me, and now every time I play the whiskey, every time I take a picture of me taking, like reaching for the sign of whoever it is. And so at Rocklahoma, I did it to the 10-cent revenge sign. I'm like, yeah, I'm taking this one too, And, So people they give me a hard time about it, but that's the only time I fanboyed out. I was like, you know what, that's Ace Frehley, and my buddy and I were just really close. He's a big Ace fan. I thought,
Yeah.
God, what that'd be the greatest gift to be like,
Yeah.
dude, you know. But apparently they take that one really, really serious. And
Is there somebody that you haven't had the opportunity though that you always wanted to meet where it hasn't happened? In your life.
Mick Mars all the way, or
Mick
Nikki
would be the
Sixx.
guy.
Nikki Sixx got me through high school. You know, the kids started giving me a hard time. I'm like, well, what would Nikki do? Yeah, he'd kick some ass. He'd come in with his lunchbox with his rocks in it and stuff. But Mick would be awesome just because he is in the world of the 80s world of shredders, he was the one guy that got trampled on for being, you know, a crappy guitar player. But now all the legions of players are like, no, he's a real player. Like that guy.
Yeah. And I gotta say, that I went to see them and Def Leppard and Ace Frehley last August, and this is no discredit to John Five, but it just didn't feel the same. It didn't.
Oh, it's not. John Five's an insane player, but
an amazing guitar player, man. Almost, and I don't want to say this because I love Motley Crue. I've been to see him probably more times than any band, and I don't want to, I certainly don't want to degrade them at all, man. But I almost feel like John Five almost too good for that band. You know what I mean? I think they need to dial it down a little bit. Like when Mick was there and just in the pocket, it just felt right. You know what I mean?
Well, and those were songs that Mick was invested in emotionally.
Yeah, right.
John. You know, and I'm a hired gun myself. I've played with Donnie V, and filling Chips Enough shoes is no easy task at all. And Donnie and I've, you know, Donnie's, hey man, you need to step it up.
Yeah,
I'm not in that mindset. I don't understand Chip's mindset, so it's hard for me to really, you know, dig into those. I can play them, you know, to the best of my ability, but some of the stuff that he does is really different, and it's not my mindset. So whereas you got somebody like Mick who was, you know, a hobo and, you know, lived on the edge and, you know, was a blues man and traveled, and, you know, for John Five, you know, disrespect to John because he's insanely good, but it's not his mindset.
right.
You know, if that makes any sense. And you can't play that stuff from the heart unless you really lived it, you know. And so
I just noticed when he was up on the stage, you know, the hair is very blonde. He had an all white kind of jacket with a 5 on the back of it. You know, Motley Crue's just always been black, denim, leather. You know what I mean? Like it just, you know, it's like he stuck out like a sore red dick up there. It just didn't feel the same. You know what I mean? It didn't feel the same. Now, because we've been talking about Motley Crue and Kiss quite a bit, and you're a guy who performs and does the behind the scenes things, and of course, obviously, the last couple of years on YouTube, you know, those guys, those two bands in particular, have really been put under the microscope. When you go to see a show like that, do you want the warts and all experience, or are you okay when they pipe in backing tracks and do the little tricks and, you know, they make the allegations that Nicky hasn't touched his bass in years, or that, you know, Tommy Lee is playing to a track, or like, you know, obviously we can't replicate what we did 30, 40 years ago. I mean, you know, Paul Stanley isn't going to hit those same notes as he did in the 70s or whatever, but are you okay with that when you go? Are you okay seeing the performance, or do you want to see the mistakes and want to see where they are in life right now?
I love the rawness of you know, performance without tracks. Now, before I'll step on my own foot. When I was in Saint Celeste, we used tracks. We used like keyboard lines and, you know, backing for some of the backing vocals. And the only reason why we did that is because I didn't want to pay a keyboard player to come along, and my singer didn't want to lug keyboards along, and so we enhanced it a little bit. And we got a little bit of flack for it, you know, but we weren't reliant on it, you know. So I could go either way. I understand when I saw Kiss, Paul didn't do a lot of the backing vocals. The other guys did it, and they did well. But I could tell there was a track. But it you know, but it's Kiss. You know, I go there to see bombs and dragons and
the performance, right? The performance in and of itself, right?
And I would have loved it just as much. You know, I saw Ace Frehley, you know, play a wrong note once, and okay, fine, let's move on. And he covered right away. So I don't care if I see a band screw up or make a mistake, or, you know, David Lee Roth, if he's a little sharp or a little flat. Man, it's the experience. In fact, I never take my phone to shows because I don't want to record a memory. I want to remember it, you know, and take. You know, I want to live in the moment. Billie Joe Armstrong did that at a Green Day show that my wife went to. She does rock photography, so she took me to this one, and that's what he said. They started playing one of their big hits, and he said, "Hey, put down your phones. Let's create a memory together." And I was like, that's really cool, you know? And so when bands come out, warts and all, sure, why not? If I want to hear a perfect recording, I'll come home and crank up the record, or I'll put on YouTube. There's thousands of videos of perfect performances. I would rather see Motley Crue without any backing tracks, just raw. I don't care if they suck. That's the beauty of it.
I think that's the double-edged sword, though. People either want to, either want to bag on them for having the tracks, but then, as you said, if you go there and they don't sound like they did, in the Dr. Feelgood days, people are going to be like, "Boy, do they suck now?" You know, I mean,
it's true. It's hard to. That's a double-edged sword, you know.
It's really tough.
So I'm in the middle on that one. I'm very moderate.
And I think it is worse now because you're right. Everybody is there looking for every little imperfection with the phones up. You know what I mean? Recording everything. Yeah. It's instantly on YouTube. It's instantly like propaganda, like, see what they're doing? You know, and it's got to be a brutal time to be a musician now, especially when especially when you're legendary. Because, I think the more legendary you are, the more people are looking for some dirt on you, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's the thing, like with Josh and I, we have long conversations on the road when we're traveling, and I'm very lucky that we have a band that we don't rely on anything like that. And we make mistakes from time to time, but the vibe is there, and that's what I hear most when people come to see us. They're like, God, you guys are a tight band, but your vibe is good, and you guys are entertaining, and like I would rather hit a bum note and have somebody go, wow, I just want to be that guy, than to stand there perfectly still, play it perfectly, and have somebody go, yeah, he's, I don't care what other musicians think of me. I've always been kind of ostracized for my lack of abilities. But I just have a good time. I just want to shut off my brain and whip my hair around and act like for 30 minutes, and I feel good. I'm fine.
Now you're talking about people you met now, and you brought up David Lee Roth, who is very important to me. Have you had the opportunity to ever meet Dave?
No, I'd love to, because he's a smart cat, and I think
it's like watching him on like interviews, especially like long format ones. Like he's done Joe Rogan a couple times. That's a guy that you can just wind up, David Lee Roth, and let him talk. And he's great in that particular forum, because Joe Rogan, if you've ever watched his podcast, he does do those long form conversations where a typical episode will be anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 hours. You know what I mean? So,
what really made me respect David was that he became a paramedic. In New York.
Like crazy.
That's very humbling, and that's a hard job to do, and you can't be stupid and do that job. He's
led a pretty interesting life, even at the height of their career. He goes over and just takes his dog and moves over to Japan and really gets into studying the sword and martial arts, and lives alone and just gets a 1-bedroom apartment, like when he can afford like a mansion over there. You know what I mean? Like he's a real interesting kind of cerebral kind of guy. And of course, me with the hair and having you looking down up there, man. I'm trying to make my claim that I am Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. So it's not going so well with the DNA testing.
Right. Right. I'm just saying, we can make that work. Don't worry about it.
Sure we could. Yeah.
But I love
and I think I'm increasingly understanding too, man, that the Van Halen band and the whole dichotomy is always interesting to me, because for years it always seemed like they were throwing out these difficult singers, and no disrespect to them, and rest in peace, Eddie, one of the all-time greats, but it seems like the Van Halen brothers are the difficult ones.
No,
I don't know.
I read a ton of books. I love the industry, and Noel Monk's book. That was good. He went from road managing the Sex Pistols right to Van Halen.
Yeah,
and that guy was smart. He had his finger on the pulse of it and taught them a few things. Those guys are making $75 a week off that first album on tour. I'm like going, good God, everybody thinks that you're a millionaire. I meet people and they're just like, oh my God, you guys must have some money. And I'm like, yeah, that's not true. We don't. I mean, it's all wrapped up in the band. In fact, I had a kid, my old band opened up for Creed once. And this kid backstage goes, hey man, give me your cowboy hat. I had this cowboy hat. And I said, man, this cowboy hat costs like a couple $100. And this like 13-year-old kid goes, bitch, like you don't have $1 million in the bank. And so I'm like, dude, I've got 6 payments left on that truck in the parking lot. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Right. That's the illusion. That's the illusion, though. Yeah.
And God bless that kid, man. It was funny as shit. But
I mean, if you're taking the stage somewhere, you've got to be sitting on piles of money somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the way we've always approached it. We look like $1 million, right? But we play for $10.95.
Yeah.
All good.
And Now, so one of the tougher questions, and I try to save it towards the end, and some people rattle off the answer like right away, but for you as a music fan, your Mount Rushmore of acts of all time, man, that just, you know, that are always like your four mainstays, man, that just mean the most to you.
Oh my God, I like so much music and so many different genres. I always get okay, Motley Crue, you know, Kiss, obviously.
Yep.
But lately, I like Skindred, great band, very
Amazing.
unsung.
Yeah.
You know, and really, I like Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And then Congos. I've got way more than four. You know, but Blue October. You know, I really like a lot of bands. But I guess the big four would be, you know, Kiss, you know, Motley Crue, Pink Floyd, and I guess I could just leave the other one open to whoever.
I guess I kind of equate it to like if you were stuck, you know, it's like the old desert island question. You know, I mean, you know, if like you had a couple artists or a couple albums that you were stuck there with for life.
Ooh. Oh, that'd be Pink Floyd and Kiss, because the discography, I'd have all the albums, so I'd have plenty of music. You know,
yeah, you certainly would never run out. Yeah. Yeah. Now, so what's the plan? Now, so what's the well? Before I get to the plan of you know, of the band going forward after this last EP, no, yeah, I guess I will ask you, you know, with the music business being so, hey, you know what I mean, like you know, I put stuff out or else you're gonna get forgotten about. How fast do you think about like when you release the next one? Obviously you've been pretty prolific, 2022 an EP, 2023 an EP. Will you be rolling out new music in 2024 or will it more likely be 2025?
I'm going to try, but I think it'll be 2025.
Yeah.
And just because of, you know, like I said, Josh is studying to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
So you know, that takes a lot of his time, and I get it. Yeah. And the other guys, you know, Jake, he's actually going on a tour with his other band, which is cool. And then Josh there's so many J names. I'm the only one that doesn't have a J in his band. So I'm gonna spell Greg with a J. It's gonna be weird. But Jeff really wants to focus on producing, and so I think, you know, like I have songs written for the next EP. All I need is a few finishing touches. And so I was gonna really try to put out at least a single. But we've got 2 more shows this year. And then I think we're going to kind of regroup and just kind of say, okay, this is what we want to do. You know, because I don't want to step on those guys and say, well, you got to be over here. And blah, blah. Yeah. I get it. Life happens, and I'm doing it for fun. I'm not doing it for. It's great when my friends back home and my old high school friends and junior high friends, you know, old girlfriends, and they're like, oh my God, you're really doing what you want to do. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's all I've ever wanted to do. But I've also gotten to a point in my life where I've done everything I wanted to do, and everything right now is just, hey, I'm having a good time, and I'll just see what comes as it comes. You know?
Yeah. You guys also seem to like, you know, a medium that was obviously a lot bigger back in the 80s and the 90s was MTV. Now we're watching our videos on a smaller screen and usually watching them via YouTube. But you guys have rolled some videos out, though. Do you like that you know, that process? And do you think it's a useful marketing tool in today's music business to still make videos?
Yes. Literally, I get sales off of our videos alone. And, you know, and it's direct. When we release a new video, there's a whole spike of sales that come in. And so I love it. I love making videos. You know,
I was watching a few of them on my lunch break today too, and they are doing good. 24,000 views. Like, that's good. You know, even if like a third of those people go out and download or buy any of your music, you know what I mean? You know, like nowadays it really is about like, you know, who you can reach. Even if you can reach a dozen people or a couple dozen people, it all matters now.
Yep. Oh, and it's, you know, even with our goal is to see how many views we can get organically. Yeah. And so we don't buy, you know, our views, because you can buy up to 100,000 views and get into the algorithm. A lot of it's, you know, organic, where I get people going, man, I ran across you guys. And so now we're starting to run in ads. If you look up, you know, they'll run an ad and it'll kind of put us out there. Or if you look up like Rat or Stephen Piercy, all of a sudden 10 Cent Revenge comes up too, which is great. I don't know how to adjust those algorithms. I'm kind of a dummy with that. But the videos are hysterical to make. We laugh the whole time. We're just making fun of ourselves. You know, we're just having a good time. That's what we want to, because I don't have any poignant things to say about the current world affairs.
And it's not too bad if you're popping up in your, you know, and you're in the same algorithm as Rat. Nothing wrong with that.
Oh yeah, I am not going to complain. We're in good company for sure. And if I would have had that when I was a little kid, 17 years old, I would, it's like the high point of my week was our trailer was right next to Kip Winger's, and I walked by and Kip waved, I waved, and that was it. That there was no interaction. It was like, "Hi, Kip. Hi, dude." And I was like, "Man, I've arrived." That's just cool to me. It's not. And so, being alongside those on an algorithm, I'm fine with that. I think that's cool. Yeah,
I think that's the most amazing thing when rock stars can make us, the fans, almost feel like a rock star. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of a cool. That's kind of like when Kip Winger says hi to you, man. It acknowledges you, man. It doesn't make them seem so pretentious and so like because I imagine there are a lot of your heroes that you could meet out there, man, who could really disappoint you.
I've been lucky. I haven't been disappointed but I don't go out of my way to say hi to a lot of them. Especially when we're at the Whiskey a Go-Go, I don't want to bother them. They don't want to be bothered, but it's always, if you just say hey or wave, they're actually really cool, and then, like I said, Mark Knight from Bang Tango, super cool guy.
I've had him on. Great guy.
Yeah, and he gave me a little bit of advice, and it was kind of like, wow, okay, that's awesome. He kind of gave me a few pointers that needed to be made, and but it's like I get to work with them, and they don't see us as fans. They see us as, oh, you're working with me today. I got the pleasure of being friends with Todd Howarth from the Fraley's Comet. And every once in a while, Todd will send a stick figure picture of me that just has an arrow that says "gay." He likes to do that, and I love him, dude. I laugh so much when I'm with him and his lovely wife Valerie. Oh my gosh! But the story, and I never ask him about his stories from his Cheap Trick days or his Ace Frehley days, or I don't ask because it's just I don't want to cross that line. To me, I respect him. And we have our own friendship on our own terms. And I don't know. He's probably going to debunk this going, I don't know this guy. Fuck him, but I've got the stick figure pictures. Those are going to be worth something someday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so far in this episode, there's been a lot of star power. I mean, we got the real David Lee Roth. We got somebody who's claiming to be his son. And of course, I've got the Freddie Mercury puppet back here with his teeth out in full effect back there.
I didn't see that. You got to pan a little bit for me to see that. But, oh, there, nice.
Yeah,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But that's done it on the teeth a little bit. No disrespect to Freddie, but I mean, come on, man. Those choppers were really out there.
They made him some money.
They made him some money, and it was the voice behind those choppers that really made him the money. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. A one of a kind talent, man.
My God, there'll never be another one. I thought Adam Lambert stepping up. I was really impressed. And he doesn't try to be Freddie. He says that. He's very humble.
That's important.
That guy could be I don't know how he is personally, but what I perceive of him on stage is he really pays homage to Freddie because he knows that that's his band. It's not his band. In that
situation, you kind of got to pay homage because you just got to realize that there are some shoes that just cannot be filled.
Yeah.
There's not. I mean, very rarely does lightning seem to strike twice. I don't think there's been many bands who even lost a singer and been able to replace it. AC/DC was very fortunate, and I guess once David Lee Roth hung it up, obviously Sammy Hagar and Van Halen had some success, but it doesn't happen very often, though.
No, we haven't had another Freddie Mercury since.
No.
And you took the lifespan of that. We're talking, 60 years. Yeah, and we haven't had another one. I mean, like I said, Adam is filling shoes very well, but it's not the same. It just isn't,
Yeah.
No disrespect, but it is. It's just not the same. At least he acknowledges that, I could join Motley Crue tomorrow. I'm not going to be Nikki Sixx,
Right.
It's like, I couldn't fill his shoes,
Right.
So, but
at least you'd be playing your bass, though.
Yeah, I would. That'd be awesome.
No disrespect to Nikki. And I don't know if this is true because I'm not a musician. So when I watch YouTube videos, I think, wow, I see Nikki's fingers moving, man. And I'm not one of those guys who is in the loop and in the business like you. I've never been like a musician, man. So for somebody looking back from afar, he does a damn admirable job of keeping up appearances. Now, obviously this is all, alleged stuff. I don't know what he's doing or not doing up there, or how much of it is pre-recorded and how much of it is, but and that's the other thing with technology. Now it's making me look, and I find myself being pulled into, like, I'm trying to catch something here rather than just enjoying the performance,
My old take on that is, if he hasn't gotten good in the 40 years that he's been playing, if you do something every night, every year for the last 40 years, you got to pick it up somehow. But
right.
They didn't have the technology, or they didn't have the budget on the first few tours for him to have tracks. They didn't.
Right.
And so he plays, and maybe he's not the best, but look at 6 a.m. I mean, I saw him play live with 6 a.m. and it was in the middle of the day. He was an opening act for his own band. He played, I watched him play, and so I think he can play, but
well, I think some of these highbrow people also have to be like, and I think rock and roll falls victim to that too, because of the kind of music that Motley Crue plays. You get these highbrow fans who want to compare them to the Victor Wootens of the world, and that's just not fair. You know what I mean? That's not a fair comparison, because what they do is very different.
Well, he's not going to ever be, Geddy Lee or Jaco Pastorius.
He's not claiming to be an accomplished, jazz bassist.
No, he was a runaway that wanted to be a rock star, and and I took his tutelage in, like, that's what I wanted to do. I never proclaimed to be a great bass player. I just want to keep it in the pocket and just keep the low end going. If you ask me what I don't even know a scale half the time. Josh knows every scale alive. He's way too musically accomplished. But I just like, hey man, I'm just a punk bass player that just wants to be, relevant in some way, and I'm comfortable in my own skin and my own abilities. I just have fun. I think a lot of people get lost on that train when you go to see Kiss show or Motley Crue or anybody, Aerosmith. Man, I don't care what they're doing as long as I'm having a good time, and it's an escapism for me to not think about. I don't want to analyze the show. I really don't.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure Nikki Sixx would be pretty comfortable comparing bank accounts with Victor Wooten.
Oh yeah. Some guy actually
done pretty well.
He asked me, he goes, do you play with a pick or your fingers? And I said, well, I play with a pick. I can play with my fingers, but I prefer a pick. He goes, why don't you be a real bass player and, lose the pick? And I was like, why don't you tell that to Gene Simmons? Look at his bank account. Like, I'm okay with his bank account.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, hey, listen, Greg, I appreciate you making the time, man. This was a really fun conversation, man. I really enjoyed this, man. I wish you a lot of luck, man. I'm glad that I follow the algorithm. I see the podcast has made me be better about, because being 51 years old, full disclosure, when I listen to music, from a fan standpoint, I do tend to be stuck in my ways and go back and listen to the same old shit that always makes me feel comfortable. But so doing the podcast has really helped me go on Apple Music and really see, okay, if I like this band, let me go down to the bottom and here's bands that I also might like. And that's how I come across like a lot of great music, like 10 Cent Revenge and stuff like that. So, there is something to be said for the streaming platforms a little bit. And, it's really helped me do the podcast and try to open my eyes and my ears a little bit and be a little more receptive to finding great shit, because there is great shit out there.
Oh, absolutely. That's how I spend my time. Me and my wife, we go on YouTube and look up stuff. Look up Starcrawler. Never heard of them before.
Love them. Yeah, right. They got that super creepy tall girl who sings for them. I know.
Yeah, I met them at the Rainbow, and she's like taller than me. I'm like 6'2", and I'm looking up at her. It was insane, but great. Great band. Just total vibe. So that's what I like, is new music. I look up new stuff all the time.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. And finding something new and watching it blossom and become huge is really cool. So maybe someday this will be worth $1.95 for you.
Maybe. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I'm homegrown and independent. At first I did this podcast, and I call it Pod Scum, and I did 175 episodes of it, and I was lucky enough to have on a lot of great guys. I mean, I had Phil Lewis from LA Guns. I mean, I did. I had a lot. I had Mark Knight. White. I had Rudy Sarzo. I had a lot of great guests on, and then I switched gears a little bit. Me and my son both are huge boxing fans. You know what I mean? So we did we co-hosted a boxing podcast together. We did 160 episodes of that. He's got 4 kids, so it became increasingly hard for him to get on and co-host all the time. You know what I mean? So now I'm kind of back to doing the music one, and I enjoy it because as much as I love talking to boxers, people that do stuff in the arts field are always interesting conversations. You know what I mean? Because they can go a lot of different places. The boxers, as much as I like talking to them and I love the sport, the conversations can be a little one-dimensional. No disrespect to any of the boxers that I talk to, but a lot of it is talking about your toughest fights, who hit you the hardest, this and that, you know what I mean, or whatever. But, there's something about talking to people in the arts field that is just, the conversation goes in many different avenues. And that keeps it interesting.
No, I did hit Josh twice on film, so there's my boxing.
Yeah.
I don't know how hard I hit.
We tied it all back in right there. That was genius right there.
Bam.
Yeah, but listen, Greg, I really enjoy this, and for sure, let's keep in touch. And the next time you got something popping, man, we'll get on here and do it again.
Dude, absolutely. Next time I'll have the rest of the band with me.
Absolutely, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great. And we'll definitely keep in touch, man. And I'm glad I got a chance to hook up with you, and it's been a real pleasure getting to meet you, man.
Absolutely. Likewise. Yeah, keep in touch. Absolutely. I'll send you some of our new stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, please do. I would love that. Thanks, Greg. Really appreciate you taking the time, buddy. Thank you. It was good meeting you, man.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
Yep. Later, man.
Later.
There he goes, folks. That is Greg Turner. Please go out and check out his band 10 Cent Revenge. If you just like good old-fashioned sleazy old school, down and dirty rock and roll, 10 Cent Revenge. In 2022, they put out an EP called Road to Ruin. And then just last year, 2023, they put out another EP called Fast Forward. And it is just phenomenal. They got a singer in that band named Josh Decker, who's really on his own trip, doing his own thing. A really unique, cool, high-pitched, very much in the vein of like a Robert Plant, if I can make that comparison. Just a really cool, really, high-pitched, but phenomenal sounding voice, man. Very much has that feel of that good Sunset Strip, sleazy rock and roll that we all loved back in the 80s, man. Do go check them out, man. 10 Cent Revenge. And again, I do believe that you will come back and say, Rexx Ruger, you've done it again. Gratis. Thank you for turning us on and hipping us to this great fucking band. Really enjoyed that conversation. Really appreciate Greg Turner, the bass player for that band. Great conversation with him. Really appreciate it, folks. Make sure that you like and follow us on Facebook, and make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on the Pod Scum channel. This is where the cool kids come to chop it up. Right here, they come and talk to Uncle Rexx, the son of glam, the king of sleaze, Diamond David Lee Roth Jr., Mr. Wop Bop Loo Bop Wop Bam Bam Shazam, hot damn, you know the whole thing. Loved and adored by the fans, Mr. Wham Bam, thank you, ma'am, the son of glam, the front man for the band. If I don't sound and look like David Lee Roth, who the fuck does? All I want is just a little bit of that Panama money. Come on, Dave, your son is out here and he needs you. But I'm not going to get on here and beg. There's no begging in podcasting, just like there's no crying in podcasting, man. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to lower myself for you guys, but I did enjoy that episode, man. I hope you guys did too. Greg Turner, 10 Cent Revenge. Check him the fuck out. And like I always end this thing by telling you guys, remember to take it easy and keep it sleazy.